I hear you want to fight a dragon, or be a wizard, or druid. Excellent. I am here to guide you. I am Dylan Smith, and we are entering Dungeons & Dragons for newbies. What is Dungeons & Dragons? It's creative, fun, social, and tricky. Even if you're used to board games, there's still a lot that goes into getting to that first session of D&D. D&D is a collaborative storytelling game where one person is the narrator and the supporting cast, while everyone else plays the main character. I will be your narrator, or dungeon master. We will first start off with making characters using the player's handbook. There's a lot of things that goes into making characters. For example, we're going to look at a character I've been playing for about 4 years now. He's a wizard. So when I make a stats for a wizard, you want to make him smart. So you want to go very high intelligence, which makes him good at identifying magic objects, spotting things, investigating, and casting spells. Now say you want to be a barbarian. You might not want to put as many points into intelligence. You're going to want to put more into strength, so when you need to kick down a door, you can. Now, those are just two of the stats that make up Dungeons & Dragons. When you get into this course, I'll go through each and every one and how they are used and what goes best with what class. But when I make my games and I teach people how to play, I usually say, don't worry about stats and classes. Think about what you want to do, and then fill out the stats like that. Another important thing in Dungeons & Dragons is the dice. Most importantly is a d20 and a d6. Now, when I say dice as in d20, that means 20-sided dice. You'll use that to figure out everything in the game. If you want to take an action, if your character wants to look at something, attack something, or even try and open a locked door, you'll need to roll a d20 and then find a corresponding stat that goes with that. Now, stats are split up into your core stats and your skills. The core stats influence what kind of numbers you add to your skills. So like when I said earlier, my wizard is very intelligent, so any intelligence-based skills are a much higher addition. So if I roll, let's say, to identify something, I can add 12 to a d20. Although he's not very strong, so if I'm trying to jump over a broken bridge, I might not be adding as much. I'll be adding 5 instead of 12. Now, for all the people who will be playing in the games to come, we'll be starting a lot simpler than everything I just went through. I'm going to go through every single step. When we get into making characters here, we're going to use the 4d6 method, which means you roll 4d6 and take away the lowest. Another thing I tack on, just for new players, is you re-roll ones, so that way there's no chance of having negative stats. Because in D&D, once you have your character sheet, we can learn combat. Now in combat, there's an initiative order, so everyone will roll and we'll figure out when they go, because this is turn-based. You don't all fight at once or take your turn at once. It goes one person, then the next, then maybe a monster, because even the enemies have initiative. They don't all go at once either. It could be split up in many different ways. It's all up to the dice. And then, once you're looking at the map, which we will be using squares instead of hexes, every square on the map you see will be 5 feet. So if you have a movement speed of 30, you go 5, 10, 15, 20, 30. For each square you go through. It doesn't matter if you're going diagonal, up and down. Every single square is 5 feet, and it can equal up to your movement. Now, some characters will have more movement than others. That can be based upon their class, feats, or even their racial abilities. Gnomes, they're small. They don't go as fast as humans or tabaxi. And then you have class-edited movement. Monks are the fastest, whereas barbarians sometimes go a little bit slower. And then the slowest is fighters, because, we'll get to this later on, certain armor can make you slower, but you'll be more protected. So I look forward to teaching all of the parts that go into Dungeons and Dragons, and then playing through a campaign. Any questions? Good! Let's dig in.